It seems that most everybody has an aesthetic. Some aesthetics include soft, casual, grunge, vaporwave, and Instagram baddie. Most experiment with aesthetics during their adolescent years and finally settle on a main one during adulthood. Keep in mind, these are aesthetics that apply in real life, but in this video essay, I will take a look at the idea of having an aesthetic for your avatar in a virtual world. I will specifically take a look at Club Penguin, Our World, and Secret Builders. Let's dive into this topic. IRL aesthetics are often based on personality, experiences, and peers. Virtual world aesthetics usually stem from something different. It stems from inspirations from within the game. It could be from your avatar's house, such as the furniture or wallpaper that decorates it. It could be a piece of clothing or clothing style that speaks to you in the game, but maybe you would never wear it in real life. The majority of the time, it comes from specific locations or areas within the game that are usually designed with different aesthetics in mind. Many virtual worlds may tell players that their house is located in a neighborhood-type place within the game, but a lot of players, like my friends and I, would ignore that and decide for ourselves which part of the virtual world we would live in. Now that we have some context on virtual world aesthetics, we can take a closer look at my personal experiences with it. As you can see, Club Penguin had a lot of different locations. My personal favorite spots were the town, plaza, and forest. Having multiple favorite spots made it hard for me to choose where I wanted my penguin to live, but I finally decided on the forest. This decision affected my penguin's aesthetic and personality in the game. I liked the idea of my penguin living in the forest because I would often make her live off-grid during roleplay with others, so naturally it was the perfect choice. With that, I chose a pirate aesthetic for my penguin. I chose this pirate hat here because my 9-year-old self thought it was super fashionable and adventurous. I also loved the fact that the hat had blue accents on it. I would often pair it up with this lovely green dress because anybody who knows me knows that I love to wear dresses. I thought that this particular dress had a unique enough design that I could take on my many exciting journeys, but it was also functional enough for my penguin to survive in the woods with. Although sometimes I'd be mocked for my aesthetic, others would come to admire it and associate it with me. I would consider this particular aesthetic a success. The locations or islands on Our World were already set with pre-selected aesthetics. Alongside the islands, all of the clothes would come from different designer stores/brands that would have a similar aesthetic of the island on which the designer store could be found on. For me, my favorite island was Electric Avenue. Electric Avenue's aesthetic was influenced by grittiness, rebellion against conventions, and music. My favorite designer stores were Blue Cow and Otto. Blue Cow was on Electric Avenue, so it pretty much had the same aesthetic, and Otto is described by Our World as having avant-garde fashion inspired by futuristic/technologically advanced designs. It wasn't hard for me to pick which island I wanted my avatar to live on. Obviously, it was going to be Electric Avenue. I interpreted Electric Avenue to be located within a big city, and since I played this as a teenager, I heavily admired cities and would associate them with the freedom to dress unconventionally without the scrutiny of those around you, unlike the medium-sized, mostly agricultural town I live in now. So when I chose outfits for my avatar, it would always reflect my attitude towards large cities at the time. This was my most common outfit on Our World. Both the tank top and the skirt came from Blue Cow, and my boots came from Otto. I particularly chose the skirt because I really liked that it was stylistically torn, and I thought it showed my status of being a rebel quite clearly. As for the top, I liked the roughly pleated bottom it had, and that the overall style and color matched with the skirt. For accessories, I made my avatar wear these elongated bracelets, which I believed at the time to go with the rebel theme I was going for, and of course a pair of headphones. I threw on a wedding veil to make it seem more unconventional, and just like that, my aesthetic came together. Now you may be thinking that my aesthetic has been decent so far. It may not be the best, but it's somewhat cohesive. Well, let me welcome you to a monstrosity known as Secret Builders. When I was in elementary school, I was introduced to a virtual world called Dizzywood, which later became Secret Builders. I played this game out of desperation whenever there was nothing interesting happening on Club Penguin or Pixel Hollow, and let me say, I have always hated its art style. Now, just like Our World, each of its location had a theme to it. The location I decided to choose for my character to live in was the Magic Bazaar, or what we would say in Bengali as the Magic Bazaar. Unfortunately, most of Secret Builder's clothing options were hideous, and some of the better options required more coins, which meant you would have to get a membership. Even as a child, I knew it wasn't worth it, so I ended up looking like this. This one is hard to look at. It has no clear aesthetic besides a basic starting avatar look. It's dull, plain, and boring. It has no inspiration or motivation behind it, and it's just straight up ugly. What I didn't have in style, I had to make up in personality. Since the Magic Bazaar had a huge emphasis on games, I would always be hanging out in brain drain games and declared my avatar's favorite spot on Secret Builders. I also pretended to run my own tea shop in town, which was probably one of the more exciting activities I did on that website. Unlike the other aesthetics I explored in this video, this one was a failure. If you're wondering why I didn't talk about Pixie Hollow, it's because my history with Pixie Hollow is much more complicated than any of the virtual worlds I talked about here. I will cover Pixie Hollow in 2 other separate videos. I hope all of you guys that are new to my channel will stick around for those and other projects I'll be doing. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Usually when people think about online relationships, they think about Tinder or eHarmony or maybe Farmers Only. But if you were to ask somebody who was your first internet girlfriend or boyfriend, they might think about someone they met on Club Penguin when they were 9 years old and still in elementary school. The truth is, ever since the internet sprung up, people have been dating at younger and younger ages on various different websites. For many people, one of those websites was Club Penguin. In fact, Club Penguin was the place of my first internet relationship. It was 2009 and Music Jam had arrived to Club Penguin. I was busking near the nightclub in hopes of making a few coins and gaining enough fame to perform in the coffee shop or another bigger venue. Needless to say, everybody hated my performances and would boo me while I sang a song of my own creation called the Money Song. One day, while singing and the crowd throwing insults my way, a lovely penguin came up and started defending me. They talked about how they liked my song and told the crowd to stop being so negative. I was touched, so I offered to take them to the coffee shop, and that ended up being our first date. After that, we went to my igloo and they gave me a heart sign. I was hesitant at first, but I gave it to them back, and just like that, we were official. The thing about kids dating each other on websites like Club Penguin is that deception is usually always involved with these quote-unquote relationships because you can just easily change the clothes and the look of your avatar. And let's just say there was just as much deception in this relationship I had just formed. After a 2-hour phone call with a friend, I decided to call it quits on this relationship by unfriending them, logging off, and then moving to a new server. Because Club Penguin is marketed as a kids game, its culture around dating was relatively tame. It had sufficient enough filters to make sure that questionable behavior between or towards kids was not happening most of the time. Unfortunately, this is untrue for games that are similar to Club Penguin but are instead marketed towards middle schoolers or teens. Good examples of that are Woo's World and Our World. The problem with Our World was, although it was marketed towards teens, kids would often play it as well. So it became a very dangerous playground for them. Teens being teens were always looking for ways to date each other and have relationships. Unfortunately, kids would fall into this trap and unknowingly enter inappropriate relationships with people older than them. As for Woo's World, the deception that's already built into these types of relationships are intensified. It used to be common for people on Woo's World to pretend to start dating you only to reveal that they were a different gender as if it was the funniest thing in the world. Now, out of all of these websites, there is one that is elevated from the rest when it comes to online relationships regarding both romantic and platonic ones, and that website is Pixie Hollow. Pixie Hollow was a place where people tended to create relationships that would last for years and years and years. I've met couples on there who have had serious relationships with each other for an extended period of time. I've met friends on there that I would play with until Pixie Hollow itself ended, and of course I met my best friend on there who I've known for almost a decade. The thing is that all of these virtual worlds had filters on them, which would make contacting somebody outside of the game extremely hard. But with Pixie Hollow, the community would often use the same slang terms as each other, something that didn't really happen on a site like Club Penguin. And so players would easily be able to direct each other to different websites where they could communicate without filters, therefore being able to exchange social media or phone numbers. When it came to Pixie Hollow, it was really a mixed bag. Some players were adults while others were teens, preteens, or children. In my experience, adults would usually be in romantic relationships with other adults while teens, preteens, and children would quote-unquote date people in their age group. Strangely enough, I recently remember having a Pixie Hollow boyfriend. My best friend and another girl at the time were all living in the same apartment building in Pixie Hollow. I had recently met this boy and I invited him over to my apartment so that we could get to know each other and come up with date ideas. In the middle of talking, my two friends came back and saw us together. I introduced him as my boyfriend and everything was chaos after that. My friends started asking me a bunch of questions about this boy and whether or not he was trustworthy or if he was a good match. In the midst of all this, I offered to share my apartment with my boyfriend and he refused, stating that he wanted us to live at his house. At this point, I had no intention of being with him, but I went with him anyways for the time being. My friends were devastated and once again started asking questions like if I would spend less time with them or if they would ever see me again once I was with this boy. I was touched by the sentiments of my friends, so I decided to break up with him. He kept telling me not to leave and that he loved me, but I simply told him that I didn't love him back. When I returned back to my friends, they were hysterically relieved. My best friend confessed that she and the other girl were trying to break me and my boyfriend up. I decided that I couldn't ask for better friends and everything went back to normal. Not to get too philosophical or anything, but I do believe that in many cases, friendship can transcend or be deeper than romantic relationships. The best friend I've been referring to is a woman named Silver, and I'll be sharing many more adventures and stories I've had with her. I hope you all enjoyed this video and stick around for more. Thank you for watching. Today, I'm going to talk about something sad. You see, I consider myself very lucky because I was able to keep in contact with my best friend Silver, who I met on Pixie Hollow nearly a decade ago when I was 11 years old. We were able to keep contact by creatively bypassing the word filter that the chat had so that we could redirect each other to other websites where we could exchange more permanent methods of communication. It was a good thing that we did that because within a few years, Pixie Hollow had shut down. It's crazy to think that out of the dozens and dozens of friends I made on virtual worlds like Pixie Hollow, I was only able to be in contact with one. The thing is that at the time we were all playing, we never thought that these websites that we would be so active on would just shut down. And once the virtual world shuts down, millions of friendships and relationships are just lost. People who have been in your life every day for the past few years are now gone. In fact, Silver and I were talking about this the other day. Both of us met so many people that we came to know and care about. We knew their life stories and they knew ours, but we don't know what happened to them. We don't know how their life has changed or if they're even alive anymore. These connections we made were very real, even though some people don't see it that way. The people who looked down on me for having internet friends in the past now claim that they think it's cool and endearing. Either way, the reality is that many people don't have contact with any of the internet friends they made on virtual world websites. While usually it's because the website closed down, another common reason is that people end up leaving suddenly, either due to outgrowing the game or other unknown reasons. Unfortunately, not all word filters are easy or possible to get around. For example, Pixie Hollow's and Our World's word filter are significantly easier to manipulate versus Club Penguin. If this is the case, friendships are instantly lost as soon as the website is shut down or if a friend leaves. It's truly heartbreaking to lose friends in this way. When I was watching Our World Let's Plays on YouTube, I came across some comments expressing how sad they were that they didn't know what happened to all their friends after they lost contact when people started playing Our World less and less, and that was the inspiration for this video. While I miss a lot of people from Pixie Hollow that I no longer have contact with, two names stand out in my mind: Alexia and Nisa. Alexia was somebody that I met on my secondary Pixie Hollow account. I met her when I was in elementary school and we would play Pixie Hollow together every day. We were roommates and we would live out our daily lives as fairies. We considered each other to be best friends and sisters at the time, but one day she left and never came back. As for Nisa, I also had met her on my secondary account. Rather than role-playing, we'd usually just talk and hang out with each other. We considered each other as quote-unquote secret sisters. Nisa and I continued to be friends for a longer period of time, but I can't remember if we stopped talking because she left Pixie Hollow or due to Pixie Hollow shutting down. As for Club Penguin, there's really only one person that I miss. His name was Seamus. I met him in elementary school and we continued to be friends throughout middle school. Just like the people I mentioned earlier, we would play Club Penguin together almost every day. We had a lot in common, such as our love for adventure and exploration. We would often partake in wild schemes ranging from arresting robbers at the pizza parlor to taking a trip to outer space. If I was mocked by another player, he would instantly defend me by reminding them of my status of being a pirate. We truly were the best of friends until he started coming on to Club Penguin less and less. I remember when I realized that I would never see him again, I was really upset and sad. To anybody wondering what might have happened to their virtual world friends, I hope that you continue to keep those memories close as they are unique and not everybody has the privilege to experience them. Thank you for watching. Have you ever played a game that's so frustrating and janky at the same time that is completely unbeatable? Have you ever played a game that made you want to bang your head against the wall and cry uncontrollably for hours? Have you ever played a game that's so evil that it pains you to talk about? Well, if you haven't, then let me introduce you to a game called Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. It was released in 2006 and belongs to a long line of PC Barbie video games. Some of those games were fun and enjoyable. But not this one. This one was a dumpster fire waiting to happen. Let's begin with the plot. You start off in a magical secret garden underneath the palace that's entrance is being destroyed by the main antagonist's henchmen via hammer, rendering you and all 12 of your sisters trapped there with no escape. The main antagonist, Rowena, has poisoned your father, the king, and the only way to revive him is through an enchanted elixir that your idiot sister lost because you decided to trust a 5-year-old to keep it safe in the first place. With that, you send your sisters to go find the elixir while you try to find your boyfriend's magic flute, which apparently is your ticket out of here because it has the power to enchant the dance shoes that you and your sisters wear, and dancing will somehow open the entrance back into the palace. Please note that the game doesn't tell you any of this up front, but rather tells you everything as the game progresses, which makes the plot a little hard to follow at times. Regardless, after you find the magic flute, you then journey off to different parts of the magic garden to find all 12 of your sisters, which makes no sense. Why wouldn't you just wait for them to come back to you once they realize that they either have or have not found the elixir? Either way, you collect your sisters one by one and end up finding the elixir all by yourself, making this entire experience equal parts traumatizing and pointless. Nonetheless, you and your sisters dance your way out of the magic garden, save your father, and reclaim the entire kingdom back from Rowena. And at the very end, you decide to get married to your boyfriend. They all lived happily ever after, except playing this game was not a happy experience. The plot that I just relayed to you guys was horribly boring and made zero sense half the time because it was so poorly executed and explained throughout the game. But the suffering doesn't end there. Let's get into the other elements that makes this game so agonizing to play. First, let's talk about what makes this game so hard and unbeatable. To put it shortly, it's the controls or the lack thereof. You see, this game was made for children and 5-year-olds don't have the best hand-eye coordination. This game's controls are both so sensitive and unresponsive at the same time that it makes it even harder for a child to navigate through. Even as an adult, I'm having issues. You could literally be running towards a gem to collect it and still have to take a dozen U-turns on your way there. Speaking of gems, it's truly a headache-inducing mechanic. Gem collecting might not sound like much, but Rowena's pet monkey coming to steal your gems every 2 seconds and your boyfriend's pet parrot yelling at you to get your gems before they get stolen subjects you to way more stress than what any human should be exposed to when playing a Barbie game. Alright, let's talk about the next element, the gameplay. If there's one word that describes the gameplay, it would be repetitive. From the 4 areas you can explore, you're required to play 3 minigames for each one of them to lure your sisters out of hiding. The first is a basic arrow key dancing game which is very easy to get through, although it becomes a little boring the 3rd time around. The second is where you customize a fountain/fireworks/light display depending on which area you're in. While it's more creative and interesting, it's also much more tedious, so I end up finding myself clicking random settings for each of the displays, although children might be more invested in this kind of stuff. Now, the third is what I call the Twyla games. Twyla is your pet cat, and for whatever reason, any minigame involving her is like me trying to get a C- in my pre-calculus class in high school. Pretty much impossible. While looking through the comment sections of videos about this game, I realized that Twyla was the sole purpose of everybody, and I mean everybody, not being able to beat Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses as a child. Even as an adult, it felt like an eternity before I was able to figure out how to make Twyla jump in the air to catch some flowers. Every time you find a sister, you're once again forced to play another game in which you have to painstakingly choreograph a dance for them, and you have to do this a total of 12 times. This was easily the worst thing you had to do in this entire game. Putting together all the dance moves was okay, although uninspiring, but watching the dance in its entirety after constructing it felt like I lost about 20 years of my life watching an animated woman throw it back. With that being said, let's move on to the ultimate evil of this game, the graphics and the voice acting. Now, it's pretty clear that the graphics are straight up garbage, but I will say that it was a product of its time, and the technology of connecting art to programming wasn't as good as it is today. But would it have killed them to add just a little bit more emotion to the characters, especially regarding their faces and body movements? The entire time, it feels like I'm watching a nightmare of stiff and lifeless puppets talk to each other. Just like the graphics, the voice acting is less than impressive. It has a little more emotion and drama to it, but it still sounds artificially fake and overly happy. Other than that, I really only have one thing to say. Why does Lacey, the youngest daughter, a literal toddler, sound like she's being voiced by a 40-year-old woman who decided to pitch her voice a few octaves up? Overall, Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses is a mess and unnaturally hard to play. It really had no redeeming qualities other than nostalgia. I really suggest spending time playing other games other than this one. Thank you all for watching. This video is different from the content that I usually create, but I really enjoyed making it. If you want to see more videos like this, feel free to comment down below. See you all in the next video. Whether you've heard about the casinos run by high schoolers on Habbo Hotel or the disgustingly terrifying ongoings of Club Penguin Online, one thing is for sure, crime is common on MMOs. While what I'm going to talk about today isn't exactly a crime in the sense that it's illegal, it definitely would be considered morally questionable by some. Let's begin. This all took place during 2011 through 2013. My friend Silver and I were deeply involved with Pixie Hollow. We would play it every day after school and almost all day on the weekends. Just like any other MMO, it had a hierarchy of paying members and non-members. Members were able to buy better clothes, better furniture, and bigger houses along with other benefits like gaining access to member-only areas. Pixie Hollow was different from other virtual world games due to the relationships between members and non-members being relatively friendly. Most players would not ignore other players on the sole basis of their membership status, unlike players on Club Penguin or Habbo Hotel, which meant most players on Pixie Hollow would have a mixture of both members and non-members on their friends list. This becomes important later. Out of the 12 months that Sil and I would play on Pixie Hollow, I would typically receive a membership for a single month once or twice per year due to my mom's generosity. During those times, I would upgrade my house, which barely had anything in it, to a large mansion which I would decorate into an apartment building where my friends could live and have their own space with whatever furniture they wanted. Because Silver and I were into role-playing at the time, having a membership was perfect because this meant that we could pretend as if we were actually fairies on Pixie Hollow carrying out our daily lives through activities such as cooking, cleaning, sleeping, journaling, having families, and maintaining jobs. With that being said, when I didn't have a membership, we were forced to use public areas which didn't always fit the themes of our roleplays until we came up with a genius solution, stealing houses from the rich. You see, on Pixie Hollow, there was a function that would be available between players who were on each other's friends list. It would allow either player to go to the exact location of one another almost anywhere on the map. This was a huge advantage for us because this meant that we could go everywhere together, including other players' houses, even if one of us weren't friends with that player. Another thing was that you could go into any house belonging to a player on your friends list, even if they weren't online. With all of these aspects of the game benefiting us, every time we started a new roleplay, we would both spend time searching and looking through houses of people on both of our friends list. Once we found a house that we both liked and deemed acceptable for our story, we would treat it as if it was our own. We'd use these houses for days and days until our roleplay ended. When we started a new one, we'd simply find a new house using the same method. Looking back, I think the most hilarious part of our antics was the fact that we'd sometimes get caught by some of the players we stole houses from. When they asked us what the hell we were doing in their houses, we would straight up lie and tell them that we were admiring their furniture. With this response, they would often remain suspicious but friendly and would tell us to get out of their house. We would just return the next day and go on as usual. If they caught us a second time, we would either get blocked from going into their house again or they would unfriend us. I think this phenomenon of us stealing houses from rich fairies on Pixie Hollow accurately describes how creative people can get to gain something they don't have access to on their favorite MMOs. While others tried to figure out how to get free memberships, Silver and I decided to dedicate our time to create a system in which we could take advantage of other people with memberships. All in all, committing crimes on Pixie Hollow with my best friend was pretty entertaining. As you may have noticed, these past few months have been spent indoors, meaning that people have been learning new skills and taking up new hobbies. Some people I know have been working on art and embroidery, while others have been perfecting their islands on Animal Crossing. As for me, I decided to fuel my future gambling addiction by learning how to play poker. If you also want to start gambling but don't want to use actual money, then let me tell you that Vegas World is the perfect website for you. Not only do you get to create a cute little avatar, but it's also relatively easy to become a multimillionaire on it. Despite the overwhelmingly negative reviews on sitejabber.com, Vegas World can be really fun and entertaining to play, especially if you can exploit its system. I would say that most people come for the poker since you can't actually win any real-life money, but the catch is that you still need their virtual currency to be able to buy into a game. The thing is that playing poker on this website is not very profitable. Personally, Vegas World loves to deal me either good hands with trash communal cards or trash hands with good communal cards. Either way, you might be asking, where are you supposed to get all the money to fund your newly found lifestyle? Well, the answer to that is slots. You see, Vegas World's slot system is deeply flawed, and you can use that to your advantage. Here's what you do. Once you sign up and create your account, they'll award you with around 100,000 coins. The trick is to make a lot of coins, but only to bet a small amount at a time. What's crazy is that it's entirely possible to bet like 40,000 coins and win 7 million in return. To be able to maximize profit from this strategy, first you need to select the slot game. In my experience, Mystic Billions and Space Girls reward you the most, so I'd pick one of those. Next, pick one of the lower betting options that's appropriate for the amount of coins you have. If you play this slot for a few turns and win nothing or a minimal amount, then quickly switch to another slot game where they will likely reward you with a big or mega win after a few more turns. And if you win a large amount through your initial slot game, then it's your choice to either stop playing or instantly move to another game because they are unlikely to reward you again in the same session. So to clarify, the idea is to trick Vegas World into giving you more coins because for whatever reason they tend to reward you more every time you start up a new slot game. So playing a few rounds each on 2 to 3 different slots can earn you millions of coins, which you can now gamble away in poker. But make sure that you don't spend too much time on one slot because that's the fastest way to lose a lot of money at once. My other advice would be not to play any games in which you have to win against the house, because they're notorious for giving the players really bad odds. With that being said, I think Vegas World is a decent place to cultivate your skills in poker before you start playing games which involve actual money. And I wanted to quickly add that the basis for this video is based off my personal observations, so experiences might be different from player to player. I would love to know if this strategy works for anybody else, so if you guys decide to try it, please let me know how it goes in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you stay for the next video. I want everybody to take a moment to sit back, relax, and come to terms with the fact that they've either scammed or were scammed by somebody online while they were a child. And while we all continue to get scammed in our adult lives by influencers and shady digitally based businesses, in this video I want to particularly focus on scams that take place on virtual world gaming websites aimed at kids. The first type of scam I'm going to talk about are traditional scams. In my opinion, traditional scams are scams that hurt people financially or their sense of security. These usually would almost always take place on games that have a trading or gift exchange system in place. For virtual worlds that carried items that had real-life monetary value, functioning economies and criminal organizations would emerge, causing incredible amounts of chaos and damage. I think the most famous example would be Habbo Hotel, a site that includes everything ranging from outrageously rigged casinos to ridiculous pyramid schemes. I won't talk any further about Habbo Hotel or high-stakes crimes that happen on these types of games due to the fact that I myself don't have much experience dealing with it, and because another YouTuber named Trolligarch made 2 fantastic videos covering this topic. I'll link his videos in the description below. For games with trading systems, a scam can take the form of 2 players promising to trade items of similar value, but in actuality, the player who's conducting the scam trades an item that's worth significantly less than the one they promised. For example, I orchestrated a scam like this on Animal Jam when I was a child. I gave them a common heart-shaped necklace that anybody could purchase for a small amount of coins in exchange for a bow and arrow set, an item that was available to paying members of the website. In order for the scam to work, I had to make sure that the other person entered their item into the trade before I did, so that once I entered my item in, they had no chance to back out or even see what item I was giving them. My scam was successful, but I ended up feeling bad for the other player, so I returned it to them after they expressed how distraught they were by spamming Animal Jam sad emoji in chat. For games with a gift exchange system, usually players will make an informal deal with each other to trade items, but since there's no protection set in place, it's based purely on trust within each other to see the deal through. Needless to say, a lot of the times the outcome would be one player sending an item but never receiving one back in return. Another common traditional scam was random people pretending to be moderators or staff of a virtual world game and then asking other players to send their usernames and passwords so that they could quote-unquote gift their accounts with free in-game currency and rare items. This would be most successful in games that allowed people to have private conversations with each other, such as Pixie Hollow and Our World. The next type of scams I'm going to cover are socially immoral scams. Socially immoral scams are scams that hurt or impact people on a social level. These scams can take place on any virtual world game because most, if not all, have some type of culture and or beliefs which are inherent to a specific community. Usually, these types of scams come in the form of players feigning parts of their identity or engaging in socially unacceptable relationships and behaviors. An example of this can be someone who has multiple pseudo-romantic partners in a virtual world game in which it's seen as immoral to do so. On Pixie Hollow, I orchestrated a similar scam to this one. Instead of romantic partners, I had multiple sets of family units, which was seen as a form of betrayal on there, though I was lucky enough never to get caught. Another common form of this was players acting as different genders for a period of time only to reveal that they were another gender all along for the sole purpose of hurting someone, often in a romantic or humiliating sense. This type of thing happened on Club Penguin and Woo's World a lot because there was no such thing as gendered clothing, and so it was easy to switch into whatever clothes they thought represented the identity they wanted to quote-unquote trick people with. I have more thoughts on sincere gender identity and expression on these types of games, but I'll discuss that in a later video more in depth. As I covered in my Crimes on Pixie Hollow video, stealing and using the property of other players is also heavily looked down upon. The lives people led on these games were treated in a serious manner, so it makes sense somebody might feel violated when they walk into their virtual home one day and see that it's full of strangers pretending that your house is actually their house. But of course, as you all know, that didn't stop me. It was absolutely my #1 go-to scam, and I'd do it again. Unfortunately, for those who play and have played on these virtual world gaming websites, socially immoral scams are something nobody can get away from. Most people both participate and fall victim to them. Anyways, this marks the end of my video. I'd love to hear your experiences of getting scammed or being a scammer, so feel free to share all that in the comment section below. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos by me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Everybody on Club Penguin had a business, and businesses on Club Penguin are very serious. You see, these businesses were ran out of virtual housing, which in Club Penguin's case would be igloos. The process of making a business on there would look somewhat like this. First, a player would decorate their igloo to fit a certain theme or concept. People ran airports, cafes, arcades, nightclubs, hotels, and really anything you can think up of. The next thing a player would do is go into a crowded room, most commonly the town and sometimes the plaza, to advertise their business. That gave other players easy access to their igloo, as anyone would be able to click the house icon in their profile. After advertising was done, it's now time to go back and interact with everybody who decided to pay a visit. And just like that, with a good idea and clever marketing, you can have a successful up and running business on Club Penguin. Everybody treated their businesses as if they were real. They had business hours, staff, and regular customers. I also believe that some had websites, Twitter handles, and other social media promoting themselves. I've listened to owners of these ventures have serious conversations with their staff, coordinating various things such as when they would open next, how they would conduct themselves, and how they would resolve any issues that would come up. Many businesses that were direct competitors or at odds with each other would often trash one another while advertising, especially if they were in the same room at the same time. People were insanely creative. I knew one person who ran a church out of their igloo. My friend Quinn ran a weed dispensary and therapist office. And as for me, I ran a public restroom. My business ended up being way more successful than I initially thought it would be. Quinn helped me run it every week and gave me the amazing idea to document our progress through pictures. An entire community ended springing up around my bathroom, and it became a pretty popular hangout spot. To this day, I'm so grateful for what it became because it saved me during the early months of the pandemic. In my opinion, Club Penguin businesses are a good reflection of how our digital lives are important for us to maintain and be ambitious in, just as it is in our real lives. We have goals, dreams, and aspirations for our online selves that we want to see fulfilled. And this is a good example of how willing we are to work for them even if there's no reward at the end. Being a part of a community that matters and having something that belongs to us is simply enough. Thank you for sticking around to watch this video. I wanted today's topic to be fun, lighthearted, and short. I'm thinking my next video might take me a bit longer to create, so I hope this makes up for that. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more content from me, and I'll see you next time. Club Penguin has forever changed how people express their gender online. Something incredibly unique about Club Penguin is the fact that no specific characteristics are attributed to one gender or another. Anybody can express any feature that they want and are not required to identify in any specific categories. Unlike Our World or Pixie Hollow, where gender played a huge determining role in everybody's interactions and relationships, on Club Penguin it was hard to pinpoint who associated with what role because the clothing on the website was not gendered. Anybody could wear anything in any combination, which led to a variety of mixed gender expression. For example, it was common to see penguins wear masculine hair along with feminine clothing such as dresses or skirts, and penguins wearing feminine hair along with masculine clothes. This allowed this diverse expressionism to be considered normal on Club Penguin, where it might not have been on similar websites. Anybody could see how welcome everybody was treated despite the diversity, and eventually this became the new normal among all the players. Club Penguin did a fantastic job distributing clothes. Whereas most other virtual world websites show completely different catalogs to players based on the identity they are initially forced to choose, Club Penguin makes all of their clothes available to everybody. It became completely normal for people to have mixed gender identities and expressions. Club Penguin's gender-neutral tendencies continued on throughout their other aspects. For example, all types of igloos and furniture pieces were available to purchase by everybody in any combination, and outfits for work or jobs were the same for everybody with no gender-distinguishing qualities. This website was truly such a diverse and accepting place, all because of the culture the website cultivated for its players. Even celebrity penguins were given relatively gender-neutral features, such as Aunt Arctic, who was was also later revealed to be the director of the EPF. Compared to other virtual world websites, Club Penguin had a much more tolerant ecosystem that was widely accepting of everybody and how they chose to express themselves. In my opinion, many other websites can learn from them. Anyways, I know this was a short video, but please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content by me. I'll see you all next time. Bye. Webkinz has a very rich culture of characters, and so I wanted to talk about them and their characteristics in this video. You might be surprised by just how unique and offbeat they are. Let's start off with Artifact. Artie is the owner of the curio shop and the mines. He'll treat you like trash until you buy rare items from him and then give him a tip of over 50 kins cash on top of that. If you try to give him anything less, he'll scoff at you and reject your quote charity. He'll also scam you out of the rare gems you go through the trouble of collecting painstakingly to probably fuel his bong addiction. Next up, we got Dr. Quack, who ran the clinic until he was forced into the role of being mayor due to being constantly accused of being the Webkinz killer. Rumor had it that he would chainsaw and poison his patients. He was definitely the creepiest and scariest character on Webkinz, so it probably brought relief to the hearts of millions when Dr. Quack was no longer interacting with anybody's pets. Now let's talk about Miss Birdie, who runs the adoption center and gives you only 3 style options for your pet's bedroom. Apparently she's quote-unquote romantically linked with Dr. Quack, so that makes me think that she's somewhat involved with the Webkinz killings. It wouldn't surprise me if she was. She and Dr. Quack give me serious serial killer couple vibes. She also asks everybody for their parents' permission to play Webkinz, but I can guarantee you that I and many others have lied to her on multiple occasions. Quizzy Bear is a random guy who asks you random questions to see if you can get them right. Even if he doesn't outright say it, he 100% thinks he's smarter than you and he's annoying for it. In any case, he entirely asks you way too many questions for way too little reward. Lastly, let's talk about Miss Caroline, the principal of Kinsville Academy. She facilitates various classes split into physical, mental, and practical skills. My favorite classes were definitely agility and hairstyling. As much as I wanted to be good at other skills, I'd always end up doing poorly in them. Speaking of grades, good grades were rewarded by the option to take an extra class and to steal items from the school, such as the principal's chair. The worst thing Miss Caroline does is give students 1 day of recess for every 15 days of school. I would cry if this is how school worked in the real world. Anyways, this is the end of this video about Webkinz's rich culture and characters. I hope you learned something new and that I'll catch you all in my next video. Thank you for watching. This video is in collaboration with Aisha Love, Gino5577, and Eurotorian. Read the description below to check out their Reddit accounts, YouTube channels, and other cool projects. Thank you to all of them for contributing their ideas. The Pappas games are some of the most beloved games of this generation. They're fun, challenging, and almost always hilarious to play, but underneath it all hides a dark secret. Over the years, people who haven't skipped over the beginning stories of the Pappas games have noticed Papa Louie's questionable at best and downright immoral/unethical at worst methods into getting people to work for his various different shops. In this video, I want to document all of Papa Louie's crimes and perhaps analyze his behavior regarding his employees. First, let's take a look at each intro individually. In Papa's Pizzeria, the protagonist Roy already starts out as an employee for Papa Louie. He comes into the pizzeria one day to find that Papa Louie has left him a note saying, "Roy, time for another adventure. Run the pizzeria while I'm gone. Papa Louie." Papa Louie abandoned Roy to go on an adventure while also forcing him to run the pizzeria all by himself. This is worse considering that Roy's primary job is being a delivery man and is now expected to do all the jobs at the pizzeria, which I'm sure Papa Louie decided not to train him for before leaving. This is the first instance of Papa Louie's behavior of carelessness, lack of consideration, and selfishness. Leaving your entire business suddenly in the hands of one person who most likely has no idea how to run it is horrendously unfair. Roy's mental, emotional, and physical health must have taken a toll due to these actions. In Papa's Burgeria, Rita is the lucky winner of a so-called prize given away to her by Papa Louie. The prize isn't specified, but when Rita gets to the location her ticket told her to go to, she ends up meeting Papa Louie and Roy. Papa Louie looks delighted to meet her, while Roy looks with fear in his eyes as he knows what's about to happen next. Papa Louie pulls out a worker's uniform with Rita's name, and it's now revealed that her prize was to be forced to work for Papa Louie at his Burgeria. Usually a prize is beneficial to the person receiving it, and so forcing someone into a job they did not want or ask for is a terrible prize. Papa Louie absolutely used deception tactics to lure Rita into working for him. This was never a prize for her, but it definitely was a prize for him. In Papa's Taco Mia, Maggie enters a taco eating contest. She out-eats all the other contestants and wins first place. She gets a trophy and all is good, but of course Papa Louie has other plans and once again forces Maggie to work for him as her prize. Now, even though the story claims that Maggie wins the entire Taco Mia, I feel like that doesn't change anything, as at the end of the day, Papa Louie still gets a significant cut from the Taco Mia's profits, as it's still his franchise. And note, nobody is happy about winning these restaurants, not Maggie nor Rita. This is the third game in the series, and I think we can sort of get a feel for how Papa Louie tends to hire his employees, with deception and manipulation. In Papa Louie's freezeria, Penny starts out as a new employee before the game starts. The moment Papa Louie is done showing her the freezeria for the first time, he once again abandons her with no remorse and leaves her to run the entire shop as a new employee. Also, another sinister detail is in one of the advertisements for the freezeria. It states workers are responsible for all shop upgrades. So Papa Louie has all of this money he's sitting on from treating his workers unethically, and yet he still expects employees to take money out of their wages and tips to make upgrades to his shop. This only shows that he's happy to exploit his employees' labor and money to the fullest. Honestly, the situation in Papa's Pancakeria makes me laugh with how ridiculous it is. Prudence loses her dog at the pizzeria. Papa Louie calls her wanting to return her lost dog, and when she goes to the location that Papa Louie requested her to be, she finds a note left by him saying, "Prudence, Pickle really likes it here in the Pancakeria. I need a favor too. Run the shop while I'm gone. Papa Louie." So you're telling me that Papa Louie basically guilt trips this random woman into working for him by luring her with the promise of getting her dog back and the flimsy excuse that the dog likes it in the Pancakeria. Words can't describe how wrong this is. Papa's Wingeria shows Papa Louie's awful behavior at its finest. Papa Louie shows up to Mandy's doorstep saying that she won an all-expense-paid trip to Starlight City. Sounds amazing, right? Well, we should know better than this by now. Mandy goes on the trip and spins a slot machine that Papa Louie owns himself. She wins the mega prize, and guess what? The mega prize is once again her being forced into employment at Papa Louie's Wingeria. Papa's Hot Doggeria is rather unique in the sense that Peggy, the protagonist, decides for herself that she wants to work at the Hot Doggeria in order to watch the baseball game that she wasn't able to get tickets for due to all of them being sold out. Due to Peggy's choice to work there, we can only assume that she's somewhat prepared and comfortable in this kind of job, as she seems not to be worried when Papa Louie gives her the keys to the Hot Doggeria while he goes off and watches the baseball game himself. At face value, nothing's wrong. But as Eurotorian and Geno555 speculate, there might be a level of orchestration of events leading up to the hiring of these employees done by Papa Louie himself. If that's the case, the level of evil Papa Louie is willing to go through to get people to work for him is astounding. In Papa's Cupcakeria, it seems like Roy has Papa Louie's behavior rub off on him. He and Papa Louie drive to the newly approved Cupcakeria when all of a sudden Willow, the protagonist, hits their car. Understandably, Roy is angry about this, but what's not so understandable is that Roy demands upfront payment in cash for the damage to the car without any consideration for the fact that most people don't carry around huge amounts of cash with them, and of course the most obvious one, insurance. Meanwhile, Papa Louie isn't mad. He looks somewhat happy even. He pulls out a stack of cash out of nowhere, pays Roy to fix the damage on the car, and then literally hires Willow on the spot to run his entire Cupcakeria on her own to basically pay him back. Papa Louie really decided to use his guilt-tripping tactics to force Willow, a young woman who may or may not be feeling rather stressed considering she had a minor car accident moments ago, into working a job she never asked for. The pleasure Papa Louie feels the moment he realizes he could use this small tragedy as one of his hiring events is low-key sickening. In Papa's Pastaria, Utah is invited to a wedding in Port Tolini. When she tries to find a hotel room specifically for the springtime, there are 0 results, but when she switches to the any season option, she finds 1 room available at Papa's Pastaria. She books the room and then gets sent a package with an employee handbook and uniform. Once again, Papa Louie has hired someone through the use of deceptive and probably even illegal in this case practices. Utah paid for a hotel room, not a job. Besides, how does the Pastaria even qualify as a hotel in this case? All Utah wanted was a place to stay for the joyous occasion of a wedding, and now she has to pay for working a 4th job and living at the Pastaria. I notice here that there are indeed a set of terms and conditions given to the person before they reserve a room, but even terms and conditions cannot protect Papa Louie from doing something so outright unethical. Paying a place that forcefully employed you to work there is absolutely absurd to say the least. If there's any proof that Papa Louie orchestrates how he hires his employees, then it's definitely in Papa's Donuteria. Scooter willingly takes a job at the Donuteria in order to get special privileges to an amusement park type attraction that she's been excited to ride. Literally, the moment she steps foot on that ride, it completely breaks down and has to be closed for an entire year. That's way too targeted towards Scooter for it to merely be coincidental, so it makes me believe that Papa Louie 100% has something to do with it, as not even a minute later he shows up to happily tell her that it's now time for her to work at the Donuteria, while completely ignoring the fact that this young person is clearly disappointed with the events that transpired before her very eyes. In Papa's Cheeseria, Scarlett and her band are set to play at the Cheeseria during opening night, and keep note that this means that Papa Louie is supposed to be paying them for their services as musicians. Scarlett arrives and goes inside the Cheeseria to greet Papa Louie, but when she comes back out, all of her band's equipment and instruments are stolen. It's honestly tragic, right? Wrong, because they end up finding all the stolen equipment being sold at a nearby store. Papa Louie, somebody who can back her up and testify that those equipments belong to her, offers her a job at his cheeseria so that she can buy her own stolen equipment back instead of just calling the proper authorities to deal with the situation. It was well within Papa Louie's power to be able to help Scarlett, seeing that not only can he verify Scarlett's belongings as hers, but also the fact that the shop selling the stolen equipment is probably on the same street as the cheeseria. This honestly feels like another one of Papa Louie's plans that he orchestrated. Just like what happened at the Donuteria, how is it possible that the people he forces to work for him always end up having the worst of luck right at the moment they arrive? Gino5577 made an extremely good point that Papa Louie hires all of his employees himself personally rather than delegating that job to someone like a hiring manager. Hi everybody, it's me while editing. I didn't realize up until this point that another user, Magic Orcat, has helped tremendously on this script and on the original post that this script is based off of, so I really wanted to give them a shout out and a thank you. I will be mentioning them in the description below, so please check them out, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. In Papa's Bakeria, Cecilia applies for a job at a dance studio at Whisker View Mall. Unfortunately, when she arrives, she finds that the dance studio has shut down for good. As Magic Orcat states, now without a job, Cecilia sits on a bench being depressed. Papa Louie takes advantage of their emotional state and makes them work at the bakeria. I honestly couldn't have put it better myself. Although Papa Louie didn't do anything illegal, I think it's a testament to his exploitative business practice of hiring those who are specifically having a difficult or weaker period of time. As Magic Orcat suggested, it would be much easier to manipulate them into working for him as they are already in a very distraught emotional state. In fact, Papa Louie literally creeps behind Cecilia as she sits heartbroken over the loss of the job she wanted. In Papa's Sushiria, Clover wins and gets a tour of the Sushiria as a prize in one of his giveaways. Unfortunately, she trips over and breaks Papa Louie's lucky waving cat statue. She comes back on opening day to find that the Sushiria was lacking customers and determines it's because she broke the lucky waving cat. So Papa runs off to find a new lucky waving cat, leaving Clover, a person with zero experience at a job at the Sushiria, in charge. Thank you to Magic Orcat for writing this beautiful summary of what happened in Papa's Sushiria. Furthermore, I'd like to add that this situation really shows how Papa Louie can turn a situation that's specifically against him into something that benefits him deeply at the cost of another person. This just proves that he uses his immoral methods whenever and wherever he can apply them. In Papa's Scooperia, Coily comes to the metropolis of Onion Town to explore, sightsee, and be a tourist around the city. She ecstatically takes pictures and buys souvenirs. Unfortunately, all the hotels and motels she comes across have no vacancy. Seemingly, her only option is a building that says room for rent and a man dressed in a hotel uniform. She gives all of her belongings to the hotel man and then stays for the night in this room. As she's sleeping, this hotel man runs off with all of her money and belongings. It's then revealed when the room for rent sign falls off that it's actually the building where Papa's Scooperia is being built. When Coily wakes up the next morning, she realized what happened and goes down to tell Papa Louie, who's directing those who are building the Scooperia, the situation. And in the famous words of Magic Orcat, Papa Louie comes back with the emotional manipulation and forces them to work for the Scooperia. This entire situation feels even worse knowing that Coily is a tourist and not someone who already lives in this city. She probably has a home/life to get back to, but now she can't because she's being forced into employment by Papa Louie. The fact that Papa Louie didn't even seem a little bit concerned about Coily's tragic situation and instead was obviously feeling an immeasurable amount of joy knowing that she'd be his next victim is telling of his manipulative and careless ways, to say the least. Papa's Mocharia's hiring event is incredibly dark. Alan signs up to be a worker at Papa's Mocharia and even gets hired by Papa Louie himself. No surprise there. I'm sure he wanted to have this job for all of these benefits listed in this advertisement, but as we all know, something sinister lurks within it. As soon as Alan signs the contract, he sees that people with cameras are recording him, and it's then revealed that not only is he going to be working at the Mocharia, but he's also going to be forced to be a part of a documentary he was never told verbally about. This all feels horrendously illegal. It's not enough for Papa Louie to exploit his employees by making them work for him, but it's obvious through Papa's Mocharia that he's now expanding to other ventures, all in which he uses his employees as pawns to make even more money than he already has. Now that we discussed the crimes of Papa Louie specifically in the intro stories, let's take a dive into the implications, conclusions, and theories that those who contributed to this video and I came up with. The never-ending cycle of Papa Louie and his franchises. Theory by me. One of the most notable characteristics of Papa Louie's shop is that his employees and customers are one and the same. Every time Papa Louie opens a new shop, he hires a previous younger customer from his last. If you notice closely, Papa Louie does not hire older customers that visit his shop, such as Wally or Big Polly. He only ever goes for young men, women, and presumably teenagers, and honestly, his reasoning behind it is quite obvious. Younger people are easier to manipulate, especially knowing that they may have less knowledge about the employment world in general and are more prone to be in vulnerable/unstable positions emotionally and financially. Of course, we all know that all previous customers come back to every one of his new shops regardless of its location or what food it's serving. This also has me wondering why exactly Papa Louie's customers are like this. There could be many possible explanations, to be honest. He's a great manipulator, and it wouldn't surprise me if he used the same tactics that he uses on his employees on his customers as well. With all of that being said, Papa Louie is a straight-up criminal genius with the system he put in place for himself. He has a never-ending supply of customers, which also means he has a never-ending supply of employees. This repeated cycle he's built makes it so that he will never run out of people he can forcefully hire, and it also means he will always have vulnerable people that he already manipulated beforehand as a customer at his disposal. Papa Louie keeps his franchises, his shops, and his income alive by being able to exploit his customers, future employees, for every last dollar they're worth, and then some. And honestly, this now makes me question a lot of things, such as how much control over these people's lives does Papa Louie truly have? Papa Louie and his right-hand man Roy are running from the law. Theory by Gino5577. So Papa Louie is always the last person you meet. Why? Does he want to see if you're reliable enough to run the location while he goes to another location and finds someone to work at the nearest location through any means necessary? Maybe he's avoiding the law due to how he hires people. After the first game, Roy and Papa Louie are together. They're at every restaurant, but the thing is, who is running the pizzeria? Simple, his sister is. Joy is Roy's sister. Joy is also known as Ninjoy. She first appeared in the to-go version. There's only one employee at every location. You can't run a business with one employee. Therefore, the law closed it down and are trying to arrest them. There could be stuff in the food that killed some people. What if Papa Louie and Roy are avoiding the law after the pizzeria closed down? Roy isn't in the new game as a customer. Did he get caught by the police and is now in jail? My final conclusion is that Papa Louie stages each event to get more workers so that he can continue to get paychecks that the workers are supposed to receive, even going as far as to betray Roy so that he can get away and continue opening more locations. Papa Louie is ruining the economy due to his not-so-subtle monopoly. Theory by Aisha Love. First and most obviously, Papa Louie lets complete amateurs handle food which can be dangerous, as showcased most poignantly by the sushiria serving unagi, also known as eel, which has poisonous blood. It seems to be cooked, however if mishandled there could be deadly consequences. The fact that Papa Louie's restaurants normally start with you working in the day and ending at night, it's possible you're being paid below minimum wage, the exception being if you only worked less than 3 hours a day. See Papa's Freezeria as an example. Your weekly pay is only about $120 at the beginning of the game depending on service that day. This checks out with you being listed as a part-time employee, but you are definitely working underpaid overtime, with your character being encouraged by the game to decorate the shop and advertise other Papa Louie locations. With your main source of income coming from Papa Louie and not tips, is clearly a very hostile work environment which Papa Louie is not legally allowed to ignore. They clearly have a monopoly since customers from other games frequently visit various Papa Louie locations, suggesting they're all near each other. Papa Louie clearly holds power in the food market in whatever region these restaurants reside in. We also see customers paying tips, but we never see them pay anything else, suggesting they give all of their food away for free. This is clearly predatory pricing. Papa Louie is the ultimate puppet master. Theory by Eurotorian. If Louie did steal Pickle, Prudence's dog, and have come to the conclusion that he did in some way steal the doggo, in your post it stated that she lost Pickle at the pizzeria, which is a part of Louie's culinary empire. It's no wonder he'd disappear in a possibly crowded pizzeria, and he's a small dog. Pickle looks like a Yorkshire Terrier, so it would be easy for someone to pick him up and take him away without much notice. Plus, the fact that he turned up in the pancakeria owned by the man himself, Mr. Louis, just ramps up the suspicion. Papa Louis might have not taken Pickle himself as he's a world-famous chef, but I bet it's not off the table for the lengths he'd go to. Going over all of our theories, it's clear to see that Papa Louis runs a criminal empire. As disturbing as that might be for some of you, for me personally, it makes the games all the more fun to play. Thank you to everybody who watched this video, and a huge shout out to Aisha Love, Gino5577, Eurotorian, and Magic Orcat for allowing me to relay their concepts to you guys. Once again, please check out the description below to see all of their amazing profiles and work. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. For those who've never played The Sims, let me give you a quick rundown. You create a person with body proportions never seen on this earth, dress them in a clown outfit, and then start their life, which consists of them going to work for 12 hours of the day, coming back to sleep for the remaining 12, fall in love with a person who's dressed in a weirdly endearing hot dog costume, and then ultimately die with their last wish being that their children somehow start a family with the Grim Reaper by starting mysterious fires around the neighborhood, thus ensuring that the next generation of children will have immortality. Disney's City Girl Life, on the other hand, is a less customizable and more story-oriented version of The Sims, but make no mistake, it's still just as stressful and headache-inducing. Let's start with the main protagonist. The character you make has no choice but to be feminine presenting, but you do get to tailor their skin color, facial features, and hair. You just moved from a small town into the big city where your only familiar face is your friend Jenna, who's there to guide you through the ins and outs of living in a metropolis while also allowing you to move into a neighborhood called Shady Heights, as she decidedly doesn't ask you to be her roommate in her glamorous looking apartment. What a lovely friend. I'm pretty sure when I first started out in the game, I just go to her house anyways and steal her food so that I didn't have to eat a cup of noodles for the 10th time in a row out of my janky fridge. Now that you're all settled in, it's time to pick a career. In the earlier days, there were only 3 options. You could either become a fashion designer, a chef, or a musician. Later, they added the author, engineer, artist, and detective career paths. During my first playthrough, I was a fashion designer, and during my second, I was an artist. After you choose, you'll meet another character who'll serve as your mentor/boss, and they'll pester you with missions to complete in order to level up within your career. If that's not enough, you'll also get storylines and quests from your friends that'll reveal bits and pieces of their pasts, personalities, and narratives to you. Just like The Sims, you have to constantly feed, wash, clothe, and send your character to the bathroom. Though something that's different is that to do any action in the game, you have to spend a certain amount of energy, which is limited for all players. Once you run out, you can't do anything until it replenishes after a certain amount of time, or you buy more of it with real money. One of the best features of the game was buying things, whether it was clothing, furniture, or a new apartment. Sometimes the type of clothing you would wear would directly affect how successful you'd be at completing a mission. Every garment was in a specific category, such as nightlife, professional, or activewear. Every piece of furniture would have a function, whether it fulfill a basic need or just bring happiness to the character. I'd love watching my protagonist dance to the music being played on her karaoke machine. She had killer moves. While moving apartments meant that you didn't have to sleep in the same room as your bathroom, I'd sometimes feel nostalgic over my past homes. While in games, it's always better to move into bigger houses. In real life, I tend to like staying in smaller spaces. Overall, the game was charming and fun to play. It allowed my middle school and high school self to escape my own small town for a moment and live the life of someone in the big cities that I dreamed about living in one day. And there it is. City Girl Life is the best Sims knockoff you've never played. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll catch you all next time. It's clear that a lot of virtual worlds such as Club Penguin, Pixie Hollow, and Toontown were made with a lot of love and care put into them. Amongst these websites, Our World was the most outspoken of the bunch when it came to promoting and sticking to their ideals. You see, they carefully weaved their concepts within all aspects of the game to create a larger narrative that revealed how much they fostered their ideas on how young people should live their lives and interact with the world around them. To put simply, our world is an anarchist society. It is bound by no institutions or authority. At every turn, citizens are encouraged to express their individuality and creativity. Non-conformity was a huge factor in all of this, as everybody was motivated not to follow the rules of society that distract us from being authentically ourselves. So how did our world become an anarchist society? Well, according to the lore, our world is a bunch of floating islands in the sky that are originally derived from a city from the surface. The city was ruled by an authoritarian government which forced everybody to conform to their strict rules and regulations that affected everything, an example being how one could dress or style themselves. In fact, everything was made to look and function so alike to each other that the school and prison would be confused with one another, with students as well as prisoners ending up at the wrong location. Those who wanted to escape this oppressive society decided to found our world where everybody could be themselves in whatever fashion that may be. To this day, I'm still surprised about how much the developers of Our World stuck to their guns when making this game. Their cast was filled with ethnically diverse and LGBT+ characters, all with unique styles of personalities, none of which were villainized on the basis of being themselves. Whether someone wanted to live their lives as a rebellious punk rock star or a classy, elegant socialite, everybody was welcome. Our World also was not bound by the rules of gender, as anybody could switch between being masculine or feminine presenting. The fashion and environments also acknowledged the various nuances of just because something is similar does not mean it's the same. Everything had its own distinct design and purpose. For example, Electric Avenue and its respective designer Blue Cow and B Street and its respective designer Annie are both inspired by music, and yet they are both so different from each other. Electric Avenue / Blue Cow takes on a more grungier, darker, and messier look, while B Street / Annie is much more brighter, lively, and energetic. Our World respects people and their preferences. It honestly was ahead of its time, and I appreciate all the experiences it allowed me and other people my age to have. I know this was a short video, but I wanted to post something after I came back from VidCon and before I go on vacation again tomorrow. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and please consider subscribing if you want to see more content by me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.